I don't enjoy doing laundry, and I don't,
No
I
one does.
can't imagine many dads are honest about that and say, this isn't for me. But that's an internal battle for me because I think the media and movies and all of that portray a dad that is supposed to be the bread maker. That's supposed to be, the powerful one that doesn't have to clean or change a diaper and stuff. I feel like the media is still kind of stuck on that, and they're not portraying the role of most dads today, which are more caretaker than they used to be.
This is Mom Squad Pod, your weekly update on tips, tricks, and all things parenting with Maureen Kyle.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the Mom Squad Pod, the podcast where we talk all things parenting. And there is no Mom Squad without the dads. And I got to give a shout out to dads on Father's Day weekend. They are a big part of how we make this family work. And so I'm bringing in our favorite millennial dad, Matt Wintz, our meteorologist. Matt, thanks so much for joining in on the fun today.
Well, thanks for having me. What a special Father's Day.
I know. I'm glad we coordinated outfits too. We're in our army green t-shirts.
We're really classing this up for sure. That's why most people will just be listening to us rather than choosing to view us.
Right. Well, we'll give them the view option. Something I do want to talk about with you, we're gonna tell stories first because, when it comes to Father's Day, everybody's got a good dad story. But fatherhood has changed so much. And we're going to delve deep into that because really when we think about how we were raised or even how our fathers were raised, life is just so much different. And especially over the past year with, lockdowns and working from home. Matt, you were like the epitome of working from home for us, where we saw the kids always in the background, always getting into the newscast. So we're going to talk about how life has changed. But I want to start with, Matt, you've got to have a favorite dad story.
Yeah, I've got one from my dad, and I also, I've got a couple of mine as well. But, when I think back to my dad, he did so many crazy things. Obviously, it was a different role, and we'll get into that. But my favorite story is when my sister made Play-Doh cookies, right? And my dad was working midnights at the time, so he was always exhausted and always, sleeping during the day while we were up playing. And I remember my sister and I were making the cookies, and we took them to him and we woke him up. Dad, you got to try these cookies. And so literally, I think you know where this goes.
Yeah.
He rolled over in his sleepy slumber and, tried one of them because they look like real cookies. And He literally took a swallow of it. And the other half, he's like, oh, these are the best thing I've ever had. And he was spit them up. So that's our Play-Doh story. But
yeah. Is that one that just, it keeps getting told and told and told?
Right. Yeah. And it's every time I see the kids making Play-Doh, I'm just like, don't make cookies, make something that doesn't look edible at all. Sure.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of goofy things like that with my dad. In terms of my personal self, just some of the silly things that the kids say, I think are some of the things that I remember in terms of goofy stories. I have a little journal of like Emmy-isms and River-isms of just goofy things that they've said. And that's what sticks with me in terms of, being a father now and all the stories I remember. It's mainly.
Yeah.
What about you?
That's such a great idea. Oh my gosh. Well, see, everybody always asks me, because people know my dad, Coach Chuck Kyle at St. Ignatius, and they always think, unless you've met him, I remember Mark, when we first started dating, he asked me before he met my dad, he was like, is your dad a big guy? Because all these guys were, all these people he worked with that went to St. Ignatius were like, oh, you better watch out, you better treat her right. And so he was getting nervous. And my dad, he's 5'8" and couldn't be any nicer. And just, he has always been just like a fun-loving, he loves to just laugh, and he would always be silly. There's a big silly side to him that people don't get. But I do have to tell you, this is a power dad move that he pulled. And it's one of my favorite dad stories because he really was he was a fun dad, and he would sit us down and give us like pep talks instead of yelling. I don't even remember him yelling ever. So he was not this type of dad, but he did
always
pull
the
a power.
Coach, right?
Yeah. So in high school, it was really hard to get a date because, I went to the all-girls school. I went to Magnificat, the all-boys school. He's their teacher. He's the football coach. He's the track coach. I was like the Black Plague. So I, at one point, had to ask a guy to a Magnificat dance because, that's how we got dates to the dance.
Right.
So I had this guy friend, we were only friends, and I called, I asked him if he'd want to go. Okay, date's all set. I'm on the committee, I'm making decorations. And this kid calls me and he goes, hey, about the dance next week, your dad sent me on the travel team for track, because my dad's head coach of track too.
What?
Yeah, so my dad sent my date away. They had an away meet in Indianapolis. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 1 week from the dance. What am I going to do?
Jeez.
My dad claims he didn't realize that he did it, but I don't know. We like to tease him about that power move.
Right.
So Matt, moral of the story, start working at the high school.
Yeah,
and then
I could choose who my kids date. Yeah.
Yeah, Emmy is going to be in a bubble the rest of her life. That's what's going to happen.
Right. I'm sorry, there's a wrestling tournament out of town. There's nothing on the schedule. It's spring.
Yeah, right? Sorry, you got to go. You got to go.
Right.
I found another date. It was fine. But it was just, I always tease him about that because it was so unlike him. Like Matt, if you met him today, if you walked into our house, have you met him, by the way? I've
met him at the studio. I think he was in the studio a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the type, like, you walk into their house. My mom's the hardcore one. If I ever brought dates home, it was like, she was the one who's like, I don't know about this guy, but my dad's like, come on, let's get a drink. I'm making you a steak. Like he's that kind of guy. Yeah. So like we were saying, I mean, fatherhood has changed so dramatically. And I mean, there's a million dad stories. That's why I love the dad stories, is even like our fathers have stories about our grandfathers and how different it was. Mm-hmm. And my husband, Mark, he's working with multi-generations where the guys who are older than he is, when we first had babies, they were minds blown that he's like changing diapers and taking a night shift. And meanwhile, now the younger dads are all like, I want 6 months paternity leave. Right. So it's changed so much. From your perspective, since you're in it, how have you seen just the way you and your friends are raising kids versus past generations?
Mo, it's crazy. It really is. And, there's so many things that have changed, first of all, but I think if we start with the role in our house, what that's changed, versus our parents, like I'm doing laundry during the day now. Like I am the laundry doer. I'm the cleaner in the house because my wife's working during the day. I've got all 3 kids up until when I go to work, and we don't have help. We opt for no daycare because we want to raise our kids ourselves because, we can do it. We're both full-time working parents, so it's tricky. But in terms of, the household stuff, I'm making breakfast and lunch and doing all these things that traditionally were the role of the mother back, with my parents while my dad was working. But I think, parents today, and especially fathers today, if you look at how, my dad was raised, he knew how to parent based on his parents, right? So he copied a lot of those things, some of the behaviors, all that stuff. Whereas we have so many resources today, there are so many different people you can follow that give good parenting advice, on Instagram, on Twitter, all that stuff. And whereas, most people had the blueprint only based on their parents before, we can parent any way we want if we just do the research. And it's insane what a difference that makes, because you can apply things, that help you become a better parent that before you just weren't educated about it. You didn't know it.
Right. There was a 2015, so this is even going back a few years in pre-pandemic, Ernst & Young's study said 78% of millennials are almost twice as likely to have a spouse or partner working full-time than boomers, which was 47%. So you're comparing 78% of our generation versus 47% of the boomers. And I mean, I grew up with my mom stayed at home for a long time. And I think that's sort of the mind shift too. Do you ever feel like, I don't want to make it a negative, but like, do you ever encounter that maybe from a different generation of like, you're doing laundry? That's not your job. Do you ever get that?
No, it's an internal struggle. It absolutely is. I don't enjoy doing laundry, and I don't, I can't imagine many dads are honest about that and say, this isn't for me. But that's an internal battle for me because I think the media and movies and all of that portray a dad that is supposed to be the bread maker, that's supposed to be, the powerful one that doesn't have to clean or change a diaper and stuff. I feel like the media is still kind of stuck on that, and they're not portraying the role of most dads today, which are more caretaker than they used to be. So yeah, it's an internal battle, I think, because I've been fed, that you're not supposed to be doing this still. And I do it, because we have to, or else there's no clean clothes in the house. But I think the pandemic has really, in all honesty, it's taught me to embrace it. I think the more kids we have, the more I embrace it as well, because I view it as like a wolf pack, and it's like taking care of them, So it's gotten easier, but I know the first, couple years with Emmy and then River, it was like, why, gosh, is anyone going to do this? Why is my wife not doing this? But now it's become more of a career supporting thing where I'm like, she's doing wonderful work and I get to support that through this. It really has changed. It's crazy.
Do you think with being stuck at home during the pandemic, did that open your eyes to, you work an off shift, but I think a lot of people who were working 9 to 5 didn't realize all of the work that had to be done at home. Did you have any epiphanies over the pandemic of, wow, this is the stuff that happens when I'm not here?
No, because I did that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
I really did. I've always been the laundry person and all that. So that really hasn't changed a whole lot. I think it's been more consuming, obviously being around it all the time. Like I'll see things that are messy, because this is my office literally, half the day. So, but in terms of the role and stuff like that, the pandemic really hasn't changed that. It's just kind of more encompassed 24 hours a day, versus, the couple hours that I was away at work.
Right. You also brought up a good stereotype of the way fathers used to be, where it was like a tough, like it was the, dad's powerful, he comes in and starts demanding things. And here's another one for you, that today's parents, this was based on a different study, today's parents are more likely to reinforce positive behaviors than punish negative ones. So a lot more positive parenting, a lot of more support. And then like when I asked on Twitter, I put this out on Twitter where I got your Twitter handle wrong, which is crazy to me because I know that you are at Wintz Weather. We follow each other, but in my exhaustion from doing laundry, taking care of kids, and working all day, I put at Matt Wintz. He's getting a surprise.
But James on Twitter, right now, so I know,
right? He's getting a surprise. James on Twitter said that he's parenting differently because he says by being less of a director and more of a teacher, the "because I said so" response doesn't answer the question in my kids' minds. The "wait until you're older and you'll understand" can be taught now, so they get more value from your parenting while they still are with you. And then William said, as for raising my son, I have provided him with the space to be more of a free thinker. I lead by example, but not try to influence his individuality too much and focus on things like character building. And I think that's, I know moms try to do that too, but I didn't even think of the mind shift of dads being the tough one who makes sure that you hide your emotions and you go out there and like, I don't know. I don't want to say like beat somebody up if they treat you wrong, but do you see that compared to maybe what grandparents even taught you, and then now how you and your friends are parenting?
Absolutely. I think there's still a time for that. There's a time for a dad to, exhibit that, if there's a threat to the family or something like that. I think there's still a time for that, but it's kind of in the back pocket now for, I think, most dads. An interesting shift, and this is funny, this just happened last night. We were out playing in the yard, and River was out digging up, some stuff by the road, and I was like, River, away from the road, come on back here. We live on a quiet street, so, but our neighbors were out, and our neighbors are a little bit older. They're in their 70s now, and the neighbor mom said, she's like, you guys are just so nice to your kids. She's like, our parents never would have spoke to us that way, just the way we said it. But to your point, I think there's a lot, some of those Twitter comments were great parenting advice, by the way, just how they're embracing their kids and letting them kind of develop on their own with guidance. But, one of the things that I've really tried to focus on, and my wife as well, has been teaching kids emotions are okay, right? So I remember my dad, and probably most dads and moms out there, used to say, like, stop crying, or, stop doing this. And there was no reason, there's no context with it. Whereas now, I want to teach my kids that emotions are okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry, because these are things as an adult you're going to be dealing with too, right? We're emotional creatures. And so, in terms of like the crying, just saying, it's okay to be sad. I understand that,
Mm-hmm.
what do you need? Do you need to go to a quiet place, whatever it is? In terms of angriness, if the kids are throwing a fit, we don't yell at them and say, stop doing that or go to your room, because there's no context for that. So we say it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to talk to me that way, or it's not okay to throw this, but it's okay to be angry. And I think just teaching kids, there's so many different things, but teaching kids that emotions are okay, they're completely normal, it's okay to have them. I think that's been a big shift as well, and so that kind of takes away some of that, like, oh, I need to be this powerful dad. It's like, no, I need to be a teaching dad that teaches the path forward versus, showing emotions and stuff like that.
And do you see results with that? Do the kids respond well?
They've responded better. Yeah, I think so. They listen more. I think the tantrums don't last as long. I like to think we've got pretty relaxed, pretty chill kids. Everyone that we've come in contact are like, wow, your kids are just chill. And I think it's because we are at home as well. It reflects what that home life is like as well.
Yeah. I talked to a child psychologist that I use all the time, Dr. Kim Bell. She was part of this podcast doing emotional intelligence, and she talks about getting kids to understand big feelings, and that what they're feeling is okay, and it's okay at this moment, and here's how we handle it, and here's how we deal with it, which I think overall for parenting has been a big shift, rather than, that's not okay right now. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to be angry. Go sit in the corner. So I think that's, it's great that both parents are embracing these new roles. And I mean, I think it's to throw in the mom aspect there. I had, somebody emailed me once, like, what, what's wrong with dads? And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with dads. If I say, like, hey, moms are handling a lot, it's just, us too, as a generation. I think both moms and dads have had a big mental shift, where dads are shifting more toward what's happening at home, and moms are switching, trying to juggle also now careers, which we don't have. My mom stayed at home until I was in high school, and then she went back to teaching. And so I didn't have the working mom model as a young kid, which is always hard. Matt, what do you think? I'm going to put you on the spot here. What do you think, moms, now that we are kind of getting into the moms versus dads, is there anything that you think, oh man, I wish moms understood that dads did ... or really wanted to succeed at ... or we're working hard on something?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I know I need almost on a daily basis is just the feeling of respect, right? Like, thank you for doing, I don't need thank yous for doing this, but just like, there's still inside of a guy, I feel like, is still this need to be the leader of the family, right? Not saying the wife can't lead or anything like that, but there's still this internal trait that, like, I want to be still respected as a dad while respecting my family. So I think in terms of that, and just noticing what dads are doing. Sometimes I feel like my wife thinks the dishes clean themselves, she puts them up there. Just like, where did all my dirty dishes go? Well, we took care of that today, I guess just noticing, I think, is something that I would want. Yeah.
That's interesting too. Yeah. So we are an all girl household, which I think Mark struggles with, where our oldest, Scarlett, one time she said to him, it was something like, well, Dad, mom's the one who does, mom's in charge, or mom's the one who does everything, or something. And he throws his hands up and he's going, what are you telling her? I'm like, I didn't tell her anything. The problem is I am home during the day a lot more than he is. So they see that. They see that I'm the one coordinating, and and I don't know if that's girl, like having daughters, mom and daughter relationship, but having that desire to have the respect, the head of the household. How does that translate with having two sons? Like, what kind of role model do you want to be? And not to exclude Emmy, but like, because
Right.
she'll be included too. I mean, you want her to pick a husband like you or a partner like you. What kind of role model does that set up in your mind of how you want to be for them?
It's interesting in my mind, you said not to forget Emmy, and you're right. You do handle boys versus girls differently, as a mother and as a father. With Emmy, I want to empower her, and I want her to know that she can do absolutely anything. I mean, she really can. So that's my goal around her. With the sons, it's more of a leadership thing that I'm taking on, and not saying that's right or wrong. That's just the path that I choose or want to choose in terms of teaching them is, to teach them to lead by example, to know that people are always watching, and that, there are people that need help, and there are people that need advice, and that they're going to be the ones to do that, and to lead whoever needs led.
Yeah.
Not saying they need to be leaders. I mean, River's a little quiet right now, and that's okay too. He'll find himself. If it's art he wants to go into, that's good too. But I really want to teach them the leadership mentality.
Yeah. So we got to get a good dad story out of you. Did you ever have a dad fail, or like a moment where you're like, oh my goodness, what did I do?
I have a dad fails every day. Seriously. And that's the whole point, is how do you bounce back from a dad fail? I can't think of anything off the top. I know I have some every day. I always do goofy things. I always do things wrong. That's okay. That's part of life. What about you? Did Mark have any, or your dad?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's some that Mark would be so upset if I told some of his dad fails. He's had some doozies. I mean, he's a riot. He's doing great. He's doing great. You got to keep in mind, Mark has 3 ponytails now to do before he leaves the house.
Yeah, if you want to talk dad fails, let's start talking hair and ponytails.
Oh my goodness.
That is so tough.
You'll appreciate this too, because I'm not here to pick out the outfits in the morning, and I have bought coordinated outfits. There was a matter of a week and a half. I'll spread it over a week and a half this past year, where 3 times Etta, my youngest, so she's about to be 3, so she's 2.5 at this point, her teacher put her in the car at preschool going, Etta needs to come to school wearing pants.
No.
No. Mark was putting her in tights and a t-shirt, and he thought the tights were pants.
Yeah.
And so
I've done that too. That's an honest mistake. Emmy's got these literally thing that looks like pants and they're tights. And I'm like, well, some people wear tights, and they're really kind of obscene when your kid's getting them on, for sure. So anyway, I can relate.
Right. It puts me in an awkward spot too, because I don't want to say like, well, dad doesn't know how, it sounds like I'm throwing him under the bus.
Right.
And
well,
I did
probably
say
quit in that situation.
one of the times I did say, okay, I'll let her dad know, which then I don't know what the lady thought was going on at home, but I said, okay, I'll let dad know. He's the one who's there in the morning. And the teacher goes, oh, that's why she said daddy's fault.
Right. So she knows who's getting them dressed in the morning. Wow.
Yeah. So, but that goes along with, then I have to text him and say, Mark, you got to put our child in pants, and then he feels like, oh, I get no respect,
Right. Right. To your point, I feel like dads have become more sensitive over, this course of time as well, because, I'm sure Mark's the same way, but I'll find myself, I'm like, why? I'm just so sensitive. Like, my wife says I did something wrong. I'm like, oh, I can't do anything right. And it's like, just chill. Yeah. That's not what people are saying. That's not what your wife's saying. So I wonder if that's changed. That'd be an interesting study to see if we've become a lot more sensitive and soft over the years.
It could be. Yeah. It's just, I think it is. It's all a hard shift. And that's kind of why I was thinking I need to get the dad voice in here too, because I know I do so many stories that focus on the moms, and we did a whole series in the beginning of the year talking about the mother load, how much moms have taken on during this pandemic. And I was like, well, there's Matt Wintz. Every time you're on TV, the kids are in the background.
Right.
Did you get a lot of good feedback on that too?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's been overwhelming, in a couple of the shots. I get sick of the same shot every day. So I'll be moving the camera around, we had a couple shots in the playroom, especially when it first started. and we had books on the bookshelf behind us. I can't tell you how many Northeast Ohio authors have sent their books to us here at the house or at the station. And it's like, that just melts my heart that people are watching and they want Emmy, River, and Wyatt to all have, their great books. We've got some great authors here, but that's been great. And people have just really loved having the kids. And it was interesting because when it started, it was like, this is fun. And then after a while, personally, I was like, man, like, this is kind of getting annoying. And viewers were still soaking it in. And then some would be like, just give the forecast, I just want to hear it. I don't want to hear River crying. I'm like, I get it. I don't either, So I think we're going to find a good mix going forward. I'm coming back to the station, this month, and it'll be interesting because I think we'll still do some home live shots, just to keep up with the family. 'Cause we've watched them grow over the last year and a half. It's crazy to look back at some of the old ones.
Yeah. I mean, Wyatt and Etta are close in age. And
Very
I just
close.
think of, pandemic, when it started, Etta had just gotten into the 18-month room at school, and now she's turning 3. I mean, just over that time, that's all of her language and all of her, this year has really, especially with kids, that's how much time you realize has passed when you see the kids grow. All right, Zoom is telling me I'm running out of time, which is how we're doing these podcasts. I had asked some of the WKYC dads, just, any sort of dad isms or dad stories that they like. Jay Crawford just said the most heartfelt thing, and I love this. This is advice from his father. He said, "My dad told me, fatherhood is the most important job you'll ever have. It pays no wage, but it will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. You never retire from this job. You keep it until the day you die. And even that won't be long enough."
Oh, that's
how about
amazing.
that?
That's
I know,
amazing.
right?
Oh,
I
man.
read that a couple times, almost crying.
It's so true, though.
Yeah, it is. Matt, it was so great to talk to you. I can't wait to see you at the station.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you too. I can't wait to see you and everybody again. It's going to be like a big party for sure.
Well, happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. We can't do it without you guys. No matter how much we tease you and tell you you're doing things wrong, we can't do it without you guys. Thanks so much for joining us on the Mom Squad Pod, and we'll see you right back here next time.
Thanks for listening to Mom Squad Pod with Maureen Kyle from WKYC Studios. Subscribe now so you never miss an update. And find more on everything you heard here on WKYC.com and on the WKYC app.